Hey, you're in the C-Space studio. I'm James Kotecki, here with Susan Panico. She's the VP of B2B Marketing at Pandora. Welcome to the studio. Pandora's been around for, I think, 16, 17 years. Tell me about that evolution and kind of how you're looking at the future.
So yeah, Pandora basically reinvented radio by introducing streaming music into the market, and 2017 is a really important year for us. We're just on the brink of launching arguably the biggest product launch in our history with an on-demand service called Pandora Premium. And it's going to be uniquely Pandora because it's all based on personalization and individual music tastes. So it's going to allow you to play the songs you love, but also let the songs you love find you.
Right. I was going to ask that because on-demand implies that I'm kind of actively demanding it, but
right.
What are some of the ways that you understand my so-called passive demands as a consumer?
Right, well, I think that for people that interact with on-demand services, a lot of it is actually work. Like building your playlists are more like work lists, right? So with Pandora, if you don't want to do all that work, we know what your music tastes are, we know what you like, and we can help fill out that playlist for you. So it's really easy and simple and effortless.
Do you consider yourselves a music company, a streaming company, a data company, because you have all this data on your users? How do you define kind of the core of what you guys are?
Well, it's such an interesting question because Pandora in our soul, we're a music company, but I also like to say we're as much as a data company and a mobile company as we are music, because we've become a mobile leader and we've amassed over 1 billion daily data points that allow us to get a lot of interesting information on our listeners.
What are some of the more interesting things that you can say about your listeners based on the data? I imagine that you come across, some counterintuitive findings, perhaps, of what people might like to listen to and how their tastes proceed.
Well, here's an interesting story. So we were working with one of the telco carriers as one of our clients, and their CMO and their marketing team were convinced that hip hop and rap music was where their audience was. So their music strategy hinged on those music genres. So we actually took a look at their audience in Pandora and found that 60% of their audience are hardcore country music lovers. And so it was such a, I think, fascinating yet eye-opening insight for that marketing team. And what I think that shows us is that data isn't just for targeting, but data should be for planning and for insights that can actually inform that targeting and help you have smarter marketing strategies.
And it occurs to me that being a country music lover and being a rap music lover are not necessarily mutually exclusive. And I imagine that your data kind of shows interesting crossover appeals there too.
Sure. And we could see that, no two stations on Pandora are alike. My Tone Loc station, I'll give away a little bit there. If you had a Tone Loc station, those two stations wouldn't be anything alike because you're going to thumb up, thumb down different things, and then that's how it builds your personalized listening experience.
I know that that Netflix, for example, found out that its audience was really into Kevin Spacey. And then they commissioned a series on Netflix starring Kevin Spacey, House of Cards. Can you imagine a world, or maybe we're in this world now, where the art of actual music creation is being influenced by the data that you guys have?
Sure. So actually the way that we leverage our data, we can use it in so many interesting ways. So our entire experiential event strategy, we partner with brands, we look at the audience they want to target, we look at who they're listening to, and then we can identify and connect the artists and the fans in a very personalized, unique way, and bring that into an unexpected experience that consumers love.
So you're in B2B marketing, obviously. How should marketers be thinking about this in terms of, do they use your data to kind of target their commercials and the kind of creative side of what they do, or what else should marketers be thinking about as we come into 2017 here?
I think that something really important that marketers should be thinking about in 2017 is personalization. And it's not just about saying, hi Susan in an email. It's really about understanding you have to show me you know me. And that's how you build those relationships and those trusted time spent with people and get the most resonance in your marketing.
So I know it's hard to talk generally about the audience or your audience when you're explicitly saying that it's all about personalization. But are there certain things that are true about the Pandora audience generally that you can speak to?
That's a good question. I think that the only universal truth is that music is a passion point. And that passion point is going to be different for the 100 million people that visit us every quarter. And I honestly, because it is so diverse, that is the common thread, is that passion point.
I think you just wrote a commercial for Pandora with the tagline, "Music is the only universal truth." Maybe you could use that.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing out freebies here, just in case.
Thanks, I'll take all the help I could get.
Sure. Obviously, you don't need it because Pandora is doing really well, and so much of it is based on mobile. I mean, when I started using Pandora years ago, I was building my playlists or thumbing up and down on my desktop when I had this internship and I just needed a break at work. And now everything is about mobile now.
Right.
How do you think about the evolution of mobile, especially I'm thinking about the devices themselves, because I mean, it's probably not always going to be a kind of candy bar phone, or there's going to be that plus 15 other ways that you could be getting, having mobile devices and interacting with them.
Yeah, I think what's interesting with the proliferation of mobile devices, if you think about Alexa, right, or voice activation in the car, or everyone has their wireless headsets or what have you, that voice is that connective tissue between all those different mobile devices. And that means that audio essentially becomes increasingly more important, whether that's in the forms of content like music or podcasts or other types of unique programs that people do. But it means that audio is that one pervasive thing as people are more and more untethered and all the different kinds of connected devices that they're on, that you can close your eyes, but you can't close your ears, right? So particularly—
Another great tagline.
Yeah,
that's great.
There you go. So, one of the things that's really native to a music platform like Pandora is the audio ad. So we know that lots of marketers, it's like having, if you think about it, everyone's donning a headset everywhere you go. You're on the train, you're at the gym, you're walking down the street, and everyone has earbuds in. We're like this earbud generation.
Yeah.
And audio becomes that IV straight into the brain.
Yeah.
Right. And
mainlining content, basically.
Yeah, and it's become like the hardest working media out there because you get so many visual messages all the time. You have one audio message coming in.
Yeah.
And I think with that proliferation of all those connected devices and people living in this mobility mindset, that's the one thing that's going to help marketers resonate with their consumers.
I think about the movie Her, which came out a couple years ago with Joaquin Phoenix, and that had imagined a very futuristic society, but kind of like what you're saying, everybody was wearing earbuds and they were interacting with their own personal artificial intelligent avatars, but audio was the key because they were able to interact with the world, but they were also kind of using the audio as their gateway to that AI.
Right, and I think that connected devices actually brought the sexy back to audio because at least in the media industry, a lot of people think of audio as, the yesteryears of radio and traditional AM, FM, but streaming has really brought that sexy back to audio.
The listening habits that we have in the next few years, do you think that they're going to change? Is it a more of the same kind of situation where we're going to be doing listening in the same way but listening to more stuff, or are there some fundamental things about how we listen that might change in the coming years?
Well, I think the way listening, particularly to music, is going to change is we've seen through the Edison Infinite Dial study that AM, FM listening is on the decline. And by, I think it's 2020, streaming listening is going to double. And you see, I don't think that any kids are growing up with radios in their household. Everything's moving towards streaming and connectivity, and that will be a lot more proliferated in the next 5 years.
Yeah. Taking a step back, I mean, what are some of the things what are some of the conversations and ideas that you've heard here at C-Space or at CES generally that you might not have anything to do with personally, but that have just kind of piqued your interest?
I also have a video game background from my former years, and things like virtual reality and augmented reality have been around a while in video gaming. But I think we're just on the brink of seeing what all that can be as it impacts a lot of different verticals, whether healthcare industry or travel industry, and that is something that I can't wait to see come to fruition, beyond Pokemon Go, of course.
Final question, circling back to podcasts a little bit, which you mentioned. I mean, I think there's so many different companies out now trying to solve the podcast discoverability question or podcast listening question. What does Pandora and its experience and the way it's looking at the future have to tell that industry about podcasting and kind of non-musical listening?
Yeah, what's interesting about podcasting is it's seen a lot of increased adoption. You have a lot of creators now, right, that are beyond the big publishers creating content, but no one's really figured out how to make the experience uncluttered and to help people find what they're looking for. And that's one of the reasons this past year, Pandora brought both Serial and This American Life. It was our first music type of content. And what we were able to do is put it in a quality environment, someplace where people make it easy for them to find, and actually opened up a whole new audience for those franchises with our installed base on Pandora.
Great. Well, Susan Panico from Pandora, thank you for joining me in the C-Space studio.
Thank you so much for having me today. Have a good show.
Yeah, thank you. I'm James Kotecki. Keep it locked right here for more great content from the C-Space studio.